or hootenanny hotspot.
This is the story of a 7-year-old boy from Baltimore who nagged his parents incessantly for a pony until they moved to the mountain. There, over 40 years, I learned everything I could about the farmsteading lifestyle from great mentors.
Ooh, what a lucky man he was.
Oh, and by the way, I got my pony. I named him Captain.
Welcome once again, Farmsteader's Field Notes. Hey, I'm your host, Shawn from the Mountain. We're here on WMBS 590 AM, 101.1 FM, www.wmbs590.com, and of course, Facebook Live. Glad you decided to join me. As always, if you have any kind of agricultural event that is open to the public, please make a comment or let me know, and I will do my level best to promote it. You know what? Let's start off today with a little bit of news. In the news, we know that Washington County Fair is going on right now, and a man from Cokesburg, according to the CBS News, Pittsburgh, a man from Cokesburg has won big again in several vegetable growing contests at that fair. Last year, Justin Lint won several awards at the Washington County Fair for his massive vegetables that he and his wife Michelle grew, and this year it was more of the same. Lint says he earned 7 categories this year and won first place in all of them, with his watermelon, onion, green tomato, red tomato, pepper, carrot, and eggplant. Lint swept first place awards with all of his entries this year. The watermelon Lint entered and won first place for this year weighed in at a staggering 95.3 pounds. Lint says he initially wasn't even going to enter any of his vegetables, but decided last minute he would give it a chance, adding that he had fun at the fair over the weekend while talking with people about growing giant produce. Inspired by his grandfather, Justin started experimenting with mega vegetables, and he says his secret is that it's all in the soil. Also in the news, cage-free egg producers are turning to aviary systems, according to the Lancaster Farmer. An increasing number of egg producers in the Mid-Atlantic are opting for a multi-tiered aviary system that gives hens more freedom and movement, and also allows more birds per unit of area compared to a setup with hens just on the floor. One of these farmers is Martin Thyssen of York County, Pennsylvania. Thyssen is planning to install an aviary system in a layer house he manages in the Dover area. A native of Germany and a former dairyman, Thyssen came to the U.S. in 2023 for the opportunity to run a layer operation on the farm of Daniel Pike, who was a partner in the venture. Thyssen first considered keeping the same basic setup inside the 40 by 485-foot layer house, built in the 1970s. Back then, the hens were in cages, but the system was later changed to one in which the birds were uncaged on the floor. However, the structure needed renovation, and it felt like there would be a lot of fixing, Thyssen said. At the same time, several features of the aviary system drew his attention. One was how the birds are able to move freely between different tiers and express natural chicken behavior. Another was that he would be able to increase the number of birds in the same building because of the ability to spread out on different levels. I was thinking how to make the most efficient way to use the old barn, Thyssen said. With an aviary system, you can get more birds with the same footprint. Persuading him further was a visit to a farm in Lancaster County where the system was already being used. Thyssen settled on an aviary called the Bulldog Gallery from the Netherlands-based company Venkanathamatic Group. He keeps about 18,000 birds in his current setup, but the new aviary will more than double that to 38,000. His plans to populate the aviary with Bovin's brown hens, known for high production, laying persistency, and dark brown eggs. Hens in the new system will also have access to about 4 acres of pasture and woodland. Conveyors will move the manure out of the barn into a 2,800 square foot structure. Another upgrade Thyssen likes over the current method of manure being stored in a pit beneath the barn, with ammonia emissions potentially being a problem in winter. When construction by Farmer Boy Ag of Myerstown is completed next spring, Thyssen will be contracted with Pete and Jerry's Organic Eggs, a New Hampshire company with producers throughout the Mid-Atlantic and New England. Thyssen's eggs will be sold for a premium under a Pete and Jerry's Free Range brand. He also plans to work toward organic certification, which will take a few years. Team Ag Incorporated, an ag engineering and consulting firm in Ephrata, is involved in site planning for 5 aviary systems in southeastern Pennsylvania, said John Williamson, an engineer with the company. Williamson said he sees a trend towards aviaries, especially on smaller farms where space is limited and other types of production, such as dairy, may no longer be sustainable. Zoning approval is often needed for new buildings for aviaries, he said, just as it's required for other types of intensive animal operations. Williamson said he enjoys describing to township zoning hearing boards the positives of the aviary system, such as the bird's freedom of movement and ability to perch. It's a much more humane way of raising animals in the barn, he said. Gregory Martin, a Penn State Extension poultry educator, said several major producers in the Susquehanna Valley who market cage-free eggs have been using aviary systems for the past decade or more. The hens' ease of movement and feeding, along with the plentiful space for roosting, helps make aviaries a favorable way to produce high-quality cage-free eggs. They do very well in those systems, Martin said. Because poultry can jump into different levels, it looks like a jungle gym for many birds, he said. One potential drawback, he said, is the house may be dustier than in other setups because of the ample opportunities birds have to scratch and dust bathe in the litter. Martin said payback on layer housing depends on several factors: the number of hens, cost of equipment, and productivity of the birds. For the initial housing investment, it is on par to slightly higher in cost to build aviaries over cage layer housing, depending on features, he said. While the USDA reports about 40% of U.S. eggs are produced in cage-free systems, I lost my place. But cage-free systems, many of those are from hens on the floor without structures for them to jump up and perch. With his new aviary, Thyssen will continue using the automatic water flushing system already installed to make sure hens have a steady supply of cool, clean water. The system flushes 5 times daily in the summer heat. Thyssen said he believes it helps the production and mortality rates. Flushing the system by hand used to take about 30 minutes each time, he said. He's surprised some larger poultry operations haven't invested in the automatic alternative. Aside from a higher risk of leaks, it's a no-brainer, he said. An alarm on Thyssen's mobile phone alerts him if there is a leak, however. Okay. So we're making some strides towards raising better poultry and certainly getting better eggs, and that's a wonderful thing. On another show, hopefully we'll be able to discuss some of the heavy criteria that goes into USDA cage-free and some of the certifications for certified humane and certified organic, because there's a lot that goes into those. It's not simple. It's not easy. So, on to something else.
Greens, potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, rams, hogs, dogs, chicken, turkeys, rabbits, you name it! Look! I got beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, rams, hogs, dogs, beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, chicken, turkeys, rabbits, you name it! Beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, rams.
I'm really giving TJ the workout today in the producer's booth, because he's been gone for 2 weeks, so I'm making him work extra hard today. Anyhow, our farmers markets have been doing great. I'm so excited. Fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, sweet corn, fresh tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, everything. Chambersburg peaches, Hooray, Pennsylvania Chambersburg peaches. Anywho, our local farmers markets, Uniontown, PA, every Saturday in Bailey Park from 9 to 12 p.m. Now till September 27th. Bedford, PA, every Saturday at Lambertville Methodist Church, now until October, 9 to 1 o'clock. Frostburg, Maryland, at their Frostburg City Place. It's running now until October from 9:30 to 1 o'clock. The Connellsville Farmers Market, that's on Thursdays, the East Side Fire Station, 100 North Arch Street, 5 to 8 p.m. Confluence Farmers Market in Town Square. Their next one will be, and it will be the last one for the year for Confluence Farmers Market on August 30th from 8 to 12 p.m. Mountain Fresh Market in Oakland, Maryland will run from now until October 31st. That's on Wednesdays and Saturdays. That's in South 1st Street, Town Park Lane, 10 to 1 p.m. SoCo, the Somerset County Farmers Market, is 243 West Main Street on Saturdays. Their next one they're running from now till October 11th on every Saturday, 9 to 1 p.m. God bless you, TJ. Keystone State Park Farmers Market every Sunday from now till September 28th, 10 to 2 p.m. 1150 Keystone Park Road, Derry, PA, in the beach parking lot. Ligonier Country Market every Saturday, running now till September 27th, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., plus other random days, so check their website. They're at the corner of Springer Road and Main Street. Deep Creek Farmers Market in Garrett College, their parking lot every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m., now until October 4th. Davis Farmers and Artisan Market every Friday, 5 to 8 p.m., from now until September. The Barber County Fairgrounds and Barber County Farmers Market every Friday, 4 to 7 p.m., now till October. That's in West Virginia. Cheat Lake Farmers Market, also West Virginia. Cheat Lake, West Virginia, every Monday from now till October, 4 to 7 p.m. in the parking lot of the Chestnut Ridge Church, 2223 Cheat Road. Waynesburg, PA, every Wednesday, 10 to 1 p.m. till October, next to the courthouse. Lower Burrell Farmers Market, Bon Air School Parking Lot, 9 to 12:30 p.m. every Saturday, now till October 4th. The Mountain Area Farmers Market in Farmington and the Fire Hall Parking Lot from 4 to 8 p.m. Their next one will be August 22nd. And that one keeps growing and getting bigger and bigger. Rockwood, the new Centerville Farmers Market, located at the Holy Hayloft. That's on Thursdays from 3 to 6 p.m. Morgantown, West Virginia, they have two. One in downtown Morgantown every Saturday, 8:30 to 12 p.m. in the large pavilion. And they also have one in Milan Park, 270 Milan Park Lane, Wednesdays starting 4 to 7 p.m. Cumberland, Maryland, they have theirs at the Canal Place on Thursdays from 9:30 to 1 p.m. Uniontown Poultry Association at the Fayette County Fairgrounds has their buy, sell, and trade. Their next one will be August 17th. You want to be there as early as possible because everything tends to go early. Also, Indian Heads has certain swaps. Their next one will be on August 24th from 7 until 11. And that's it for that. Breeze through that pretty good. Anyway, Fayette County also has something coming up. The Fayette County Farm Bureau, those young bucks at the Fayette County Farm Bureau, are hosting a Fayette County Legislative Day on August 23rd. It's going to be hosted by our friends at Maple Bottom Farms in Dawson, Pennsylvania. And they're going to, in the biggest part, they're going to discuss the importance of agriculture tourism. So August 23rd at 10 a.m., Maple Bottom Farm in Dawson for Fayette County Legislative Day. So if you have any grievances to air with your local politicians in the Fayette County area, this would probably be your opportunity. Okay. Again, we're in the midst of fair season right now. So it's good to know which ones are still going on and which ones are coming up. And right now, as soon as my technology catches up with me, I'll be able to cue you up something here. But anyway,
Ain't nothing I know what can make you fall in love like a night at the county fair.
and so going on, as I said, was the Washington County Fair. That's happening now. It's going to run until the 16th. Also, August 10th, which is already going on too, until the 16th, is the Valley District Fair in Reedsville, West Virginia. August 15th to the 23rd will be our neighboring Westmoreland County Fair and the Somerset County Fair, both running at the exact same time. Again, I always complain about that because they're neighbors, and but if you can attend both and show your support, it's the way to do it. They're both really great fairs. August 17th to the 23rd, Tucker County Fair, Parsons, West Virginia. If you're traveling south, go check that one out as well. August 19th to the 23rd, the Monongalia County Fair in Westover, West Virginia. August 22nd to the 30th is the Barber County Fair in Philippi, West Virginia. And then we have kind of a break until September 5th and 6th is the Nicholas County Potato Festival in Summersville, West Virginia. And then the Berlin Brothers Valley Community Fair is September 10th through the 13th. And then September 12th through the 20th is the Great Frederick Fair in Frederick, Maryland. September 25th through the 28th is the Preston County Buckwheat Festival. I always like that one, the crowning of King Buckwheat and Queen Cirrus. September 27th through October 5th is the Mountain State Forest Festival in Elkins, West Virginia. And then in October 2nd through the 4th is the Salem Apple Butter Festival in Salem, West Virginia. Okay, so those are just some of the things that are going on, some of the events happening. If you can, go check them out and support them. Because of this, and attending a lot of the fairs and running around like a fool the last couple of weeks, in addition to messing up my knee and it's hurting pretty bad, and I don't even know what I did. I'm at that age now where I work on the farm where I just wake up and I have different aches and pains and issues, and now I've woken up with a swollen knee and I'm limping around like an idiot and it's swelling up, and I honestly have no idea what I did to cause it. So anyway, welcome to my world. But at any rate, all this hiking around fairs and things, things kind of pop up. And one of the topics that I wanted to kind of discuss today was the topic of ethics. And ethics always kind of gets explored at these county fairs on a number of different levels. One of them always is with the exhibitors, the ethics of the exhibitors playing fair, doing everything that they can to be good sportsmen whenever they're competing against one another, and you always see good sportsmanship with our 4-Hers for the most part. The shaking hands at the end, whether they win or whether they lose, talking to the judges, being congratulated. That we get a lot of really good sportsmanship out of the 4-Hers as far as those kinds of ethics. And I don't want to speak really so much about the ethics of whether or not you eat meat or you don't eat meat, whether you prefer tofu or whether you prefer prime rib and a porterhouse steak. I'm not talking particularly about those ethics either. But I would like to discuss slightly a little bit about the ethics of the raising the livestock and exhibiting them at the fairs themselves, because we take a lot of criticism for doing it. And, I hate to point out one instance where this has happened, but this happened this year while I was walking around the Washington County Fair just the other day. And somebody really was just, I don't think they really meant to be, as forceful as they were. I don't think they really meant to be as scary to the poor kid that they were talking to, the 4-Her they were talking to. But they really had strong convictions about the treatment of the animals, and they were sort of grilling this 4-Her. And God bless the kid, he was doing his best, and he was trying to give good answers about why they do some of the things, some of the management practices that happen in livestock, and why we do it. And some adults, they just they sort of come off as overbearing, and I could just sort of tell that's where that was going. So I had to stick my nose in, had to sort of step in there for a minute, and then I had to sort of said, look, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. in particular, anything at all. And there was this guy was kind of prepared. There was a laundry list. His initial issue of interest was about the ear tags, and he felt it was a bit inhumane to be, piercing their ears and so forth. But just to talk about things and some of that, and I addressed it, and I'll address it here again. But there's a number of issues that do come up with those kinds of ethics, and I'm just going to explain a little bit of why we do some of those things. And it's not just for the safety of the animal or the identification of the animal. Really, in all truth, it's a lot of it's anti-theft. We're living in a world now where, God help us, people do steal. And so, livestock need to be identified. I know with sheep, the question that come up with the lambs is the ear tags, and we explain that this is the way to identify them, that we have the scrape ear eradication program that we need ear tags for. We need to be able to identify them because in a flock of sheep, you have multiple lambs, and you have multiple ewes, and you have to be able to identify those lambs to those mothers, because I love my sheep, but some of them are just as dumb as a box of rocks, and they'll steal other lambs. They'll ignore their own lamb. They'll confuse lambs. So we need to have those ear tags front and center. We need to be able to identify them so that we can keep animals matched up appropriately so they can keep growing and stay healthy. And again, the scrape ear eradication program requires an ear tag. So we have to have that with that specific number placed in the ear for that. So there's a number of reasons for the ear tags, why we have to maintain those. Again, in purebred sheep, I'm not the craziest about ear tags, because just for the reason that sometimes they can get caught on things. Sheep have a way of sticking their heads in places and pulling them off and tearing them. So if I can avoid it, I try to tattoo, which is a little better, because obviously that's completely flushed in the skin and it can't be torn off. We'll talk about tattooing here in a little bit. But that's, just a little bit of what happens with the sheep. Also, there's some of the ethics about them being shorn. And that doesn't usually come up unless you go and you see the sheep, especially like at a county fair like the Washington County Fair, where there's a number of breeding sheep. If you have any interest in sheep at all, Washington County is one of the best at exhibiting their sheep. They have a wonderful room that's just all the wool that's been shorn from their sheep. They exhibit that. And they exhibit a number of different breeds, just a beautiful variety of breeds that you're probably not going to see unless you go to the much bigger shows, but a nice variety of sheep. So if you ever have any question, or if you have any interest at all in sheep, there are a lot of people there that can answer your questions for you. But the ethics of shearing them really, really short for the market lambs, and then versus letting them grow really long for the breeding animals. And of course, the reasoning being, with the market animals, they need them shorn closely so that nothing can really be hidden in there, so that you can look at the lamb, so that you can examine it closely, that when you put your hands on it, you can tell exactly how much marketable mass is on that lamb, and you can identify it and judge it. And so that's why they're slick shorn. And then the others obviously are left to more of a natural length, or a particular given length of an inch or two. Some of them get much longer staple lengths than that, but are allowed to grow the wool out so that they can be evaluated based on the qualities of the wool, because that is something that we breed them for. We still breed them for their fibers. So those are the differences there. And again, depending on who you're talking to and what sheep they're looking at, they're like, oh, this is you shouldn't have tampered with them. Why did you shear them? Or they look hot. Why did you leave that on there? But you just have to trust us a little bit. Years of evolution have predetermined what we were able to do with these sheep, and we do our very, very best to keep them comfortable at all times. Cattle, the issues that have risen about the cattle, I know that some of the show steers, there's been some questions about the climate controlling so that they grow the long, fluffy hair. Everybody likes a fluffy cow, but I believe there's a lot of work that goes into getting that hair the length that it is, a lot of maintenance that goes into it, a lot of temperature control that goes into maintaining it, and washing and cleaning, and a lot of grooming that goes into those. Believe me, we do our very best. There's a lot of money invested in these animals. There's nothing that we're doing that puts them in any danger at all. If anything, they're really living their best life until the end, and they become food. But they are living their best lives. Again, they're another animal with an ear tag, but they'd have a tendency to not be as brutal about ripping them out. So it works good for them. But you can tattoo, and they do tattoo some breeding cattle as well, in addition, in case that ear tag were to be lost. We don't, a lot of the shows around here, we don't exhibit bulls, but bulls can be extremely dangerous. 2,000 pounds of testosterone. One of the greatest things that ever happened to the cattle industry was the artificial insemination and the reproductive things that goes on there, because we don't need to maintain a bull for a small number of cows. And it's a good thing, because they can be very, very dangerous, extremely dangerous. So if you do go somewhere where they are exhibiting bulls and they see that bull ring in the bull's nose, it's one of those things that just doesn't bother the bull at all, unless he decides to get extremely aggressive, and then we just sort of a reminder that, I'm still here, just a slight tug on it. And but believe me, if he decided to be completely aggressive and thrash, and nothing in this world would stop them. So exhibiting bulls can be kind of a questionable feature at some of these fairs. So a lot of them don't do it, but it has been brought up when I went to some of the bigger shows that I've seen it, that, why does it have this ring in its nose? Why is that so inhumane? But the truth of the matter is, if there's any maintained control of a 2,000 pound testosterone beast, it's you got to find it a little bit somewhere. So ring in the nose is not the worst possible thing. I will say, switching over to pigs, that I do object to rings in the noses of pigs. And that's something that's been done over the years for pigs that they wanted to turn into a pasture, and they didn't want them to root up and do what pigs do. So you don't see a lot of rings in pigs' noses nowadays, and I'm very thankful for that, because, again, it does stop the natural, more or less, pigness of the pig, really, the what the pig decides that it wants to do, which is all the time, is to sort of get in there and till the ground, and that's what they do. That's what they've been bred to do, and you don't really want to stifle that. I don't feel like that's something that we should be doing. So if you don't want your pigs to dig up the ground, put them somewhere where it's a piece of ground that you can sacrifice, that you don't care about, or put them on some concrete or whatever, what have you. But whatever you decide to do, I just think pig rings have gone the way of the dodo, and I don't think they're even a necessary thing anymore. So you don't really see them a lot. What you will see in the pigs, and the issues that come up with the pigs, I know that again, you can see the tattoos in the ears are more visible in the pigs. Actually, I have a pig's ear here. And I do, believe me, endorse utilizing every single part of an animal once it's been butchered, and my dogs would agree, because they love the pig's ears. But anyway, you can see that a tattoo placed in here would be very visible onto a pig's ear here. And you would place the tattoo in between. You see all these veins popping up here that would obviously bleed, but you would tattoo in between here. And another thing that happens, not with this particular pig, this particular pig managed to avoid it, but sometimes you'll see small notches in the ears. Okay, and that's an identifying factor as well. And they do that to extremely, extremely young pigs. Those are like the newborn pigs, and by that time their ears, even here you can see a pig's ear is extremely thin. But even as baby pigs, they're as thin as paper. So it's like putting a notch in a little piece of paper, and it irritates them, but it doesn't bother them that much. You pick them up, you do it, then you put them back with mommy, and they forget all about it. They latch back on mommy's teat, and they just completely forget about it. But the reason that they do the notches, again, that's part of that has to go with registration for some of the breeds, but also part of it is being able to visibly identify the young ones, so that, again, they don't get mixed up and they're not running to the wrong mother. And if you know anything about pigs have a tendency to be very brutal. Pigs have a tendency to be cannibalistic and will actually eat another sow's young if it happened to get mixed up or something like that. So we definitely want to be able to identify them, know where they are, and get them in the right place. So that's what the ear notching is actually going towards. Speaking about which also kind of led me into talking about the mothers, led me into is the farrowing crates. Fayette County Fair had one set up this year in the 4-H building, and I think it's a great educational tool. I have mixed emotions about farrowing crates, but I completely understand the necessity for them. Again, if you know anything about pigs have a tendency, especially when they're young, it's the first time or they're confused, they have a tendency to eat their own young. They have a tendency to cannibalize their own babies. It does happen. So farrowing crates, particularly for the animals that they're using for the shows, the breeding animals that they're using as exhibition, the ones that you see more or less at the fairs, those particular breeds, it's almost a necessity to put a mother in the farrowing crates so that she doesn't lay down and squash them, which is a really bad thing, obviously, but they're just not conscious of what they're doing when they flop down, and these pigs weigh 300 pounds, 350 pounds, and they flop down on these new little tiny babies. So not to bring down anybody's day or anything, but that does happen. So the farrowing crates become a bit of a necessity for those breeds of pigs. Now, me personally, I breed more of a pasture pig. I have the Gloucester Old Spots. I do have some Durocs. I know I have some Duroc crosses, amongst other things, and I tend to farrow out on pasture, and usually the mothers by themselves. And sometimes it works out. Sometimes it works out great. Sometimes not so great. Last year I had one of those cannibalistic mothers that wanted to eat her babies, and then I had another one that wanted to have them in the middle of winter, and so we had to pull them off and things. But all things being equal and everything working out right, and in a positive light, we're doing our best to have these pigs farrow out on the pasture. And so they have plenty of room to move around. They can dig a hole. They can lay down in it. They can have their offspring. They can be nursed. The mother can get up and move around. But again, we still have to take a few precautions to make sure that they don't lay down on them and squash them half to death. So, it becomes a very sad situation when you go out there and you find dead baby pigs. So again, we do our best. And it's, like I said, a lot of these show pigs, they really require the farrowing crate. And I do understand it. And if you want a lower mortality rate on your baby piglets, sometimes it's just the way to go. But again, it was offered as an educational thing at our Fayette County Fair, and it really was. And people really got to understand it and see that the mother really wasn't in any danger, and she wasn't harmed at all. Dairy goats and market goats, for that matter, a lot of issues have risen about the tattoos in their ears, especially with my breed. The Sonnens, you can see them; they're very visible. They have erect ears, and when they're standing there looking at you, you can see the tattoo. So we had a lot of questions about the ethics of tattooing with them as well. Again, with the dairy goats, both ears are tattooed. And again, in a breed like with my breed, where they're all white, every single one in the breed is white. So, and a lot of times I'm using the same father, I'm using the same sire, and those young does really should look like their daddy. If I'm doing my job and I'm picking out the qualities that I want to pick, I want to find a sire I can use across my entire herd, and I want him to leave his stamp. And so when you have that many offspring, I don't know what I had this year, between 70 and 80 kids this year. When you have that many, there's no way I could possibly remember which one was its mother and I could probably remember which one was its father just to look at it, but to remember which one's its mother was. So we have to tattoo them to be able to identify them. The left ear contains the letter and the number, and it has a letter that's always synced to the year of the birth. Okay, so just for instance, if you had an L, it was this year. If you had a T, it was this year, so on and so forth. So 2025 had a letter, and then you put the number of the order of which the kid was born. So it was our first kid, our second kid, all the way down, and for me, it would all be double digits into the 70s or 80s. So that would be in the left ear. And in the right ear, each breeder of dairy goats, according to the American Dairy Goat Association, has their own sequence that goes just with their herd. So I have my own specific sequence. The next breeder down the road has their own specific sequence, and so on and so forth. So I have to put that sequence in the other ear. So they can always identify those. And those get put on their registration papers, and that's it. I will say that it's one of those things that looks more brutal and nasty than what it is. A lot of people, especially the ones that exhibit their kids, will do it very young. And I know, I'll show you the tattoo apparatus here in a minute. But basically, they'll tattoo them and they'll let out a little yip. But then as soon as you're done with them, you stick a bottle in their face, and again, it's completely forgotten. That's the wonderful thing about animals. As soon as it's forgotten, it's forgiven. So it's one of those things that you kind of have to do. Also, beyond the tattooing, we despud the young goats, meaning dehorn them, but we do that at a very young age, and that's done with a very hot iron. And again, we get the question, why don't we let the goats' horns grow at the fair? And my answer always is because, we want the fair pens to last, because believe me, you wouldn't be able to walk up and pet them. Because believe me, when goats have horns, they know how to use them. They learn very quickly, and they become very sharp. Goats have a tendency to want to rub them all the time and literally, just do a sharpening number with them. But we dispud them mainly because of the way that the horns grow. If you have sheep, the sheep horns have a tendency to grow in circles. If you've ever seen any Dodge vehicle, you see the ram on the head. The horns have a tendency to be curled versus the goats, where they tend to go straight up and then spread outward, which makes it really awful when they stick their head through a fence and then they can't pull it back. They can go in one way, but they can't go the other way. And so I say to, if it's an ethical question, I always say to anybody, if you don't think it's ethical, then watch a goat break its neck in a fence, because it's just fussing and fighting to get itself free, and ends up really, really causing a lot of damage or death. So dispudding is by far the most humane and the best way to keep the animal healthy, and you as an exhibitor, it keeps you a lot more healthy too. I know sometimes when some of the market animals are permitted to grow the horns, the boar goats are permitted to grow horns. We've had some injuries at the fairs with the kids, some very scary injuries, where basically the goat wasn't trying to do anything, just lifts its head, and the horn is right in the kid's face. So again, we minimize that, and we get rid of it, and we dispud when they're very, very young. So that issue is not just a maintenance, but it's a safety and health issue. We also get questions, and this one's always kind of cute. We get the questions about, in the dairy goat barn, we get the questions about the La Mancha goats. The La Mancha goats are a goat that have no external ear. Okay, it's flush to the skull, even less than what human beings have for ears. But they hear perfectly fine. There's just no external ear, and it makes their head look more like a camel or something like that. But whenever people walk up to it, and the first question that comes out of their mind, comes to their mind, and they express to us is, why did you cut off the ears on that goat? And, we're there to provide information, and part of you just wants to say something like, we cut them off and cook them up like bacon, or we would make up some long, elaborate, funny story and just to mortify people. But it's we really need to stop doing that. We just to tell the truth, and we eventually fess up and we say, no, that's the natural state of that animal. It was born that way. It doesn't have external ear. So, But that becomes an ethical question, because then where do you tattoo the La Mancha goats? And so those are tattooed in the tail webs on the sides. And that can be a little bit of a tricky tattoo, especially when they're very, very young. But, I'll show you how we do that in a minute. But tattooing really is the safest way to identify these animals and to keep them identified their entire life, and to keep them from being stolen and messed around with. The tattooing outfit looks kind of brutal and kind of scary, and you can see mine has seen some wear. These are about 40 years old, and what we do with the ear basically is we'll take an alcohol swab, and we'll swab the inside of the ear, and then we'll apply green ink, a roll-on green ink. And this is not the typical ink like you would particularly buy for human tattoo on Popeye, or the tattoo ink that your ex-girlfriend got when she went to Cancun on her lower back. Never mind, I'm drifting off. Anyway, it's not that kind of tattoo, but that kind of tattoo ink. But it's a more of a biodegradable ink. But you always want to use the green, and I don't know why that is, and I don't think anybody really knows why it is. But green ink has the tendency to stay in the ear and to be more visible over a long period of time, even over black ink. They've tried black ink, they tried white ink. And neither one of them lasts as long or is quite as visible as that dark green ink. So that's why you see it more prevalent. That's why people use it. And again, sometimes with if you ever go to buy pig's ears for your dogs, you'll see those tattoos are in here. And what happens is the tattooer, after that ink is applied into the ear, it's clamped, and the points that stick up make an impression in the ear. And again, it's not comfortable, but it's only for a second. And then you reapply the ink over top of it, and they're done. And it's as simple as that. And they have an identifying mark for the rest of their lives. Now, we're doing a lot of work with microchipping, and I'm really anxious about microchipping because I would like to be able to utilize it. Right now, it's extremely expensive to utilize. And if you use it as an identifier, you need to be able to take it with you to the shows in case a judge needs to use it to verify the animal. So it becomes a little bit of a pain there. And additionally, the issue with the microchips is if you ever had a dog that's been microchipped, they have a tendency to migrate around the body. So for market animals, that's an issue. We don't love things that we don't know exactly what's going on in these market animals when we send them to market. So that's a bit of an issue. In the dairy goats, it's a bit of an issue. The dairy animals, it's a bit of an issue. Trying to float around and find it. They're very loose, thin, pliable skin, which is good. It's part of what we call dairy character or dairy strength. We like for them to have that nice, loose, thin, pliable skin, but it has a tendency to migrate around, so you can't always find it. So that can be an issue. That can be a problem. So until the technology catches up with microchipping, I'm afraid we're kind of stuck with doing things the way that we're doing them. In the poultry barn, I think some of the issues that people see there, and I'm glad to see this, that in exhibition poultry, they are wearing the leg bands. That's how they identify them with the chickens. So chickens don't seem to mind as long as it's a good fitting leg band that doesn't have a problem there. Debeaking is something that happens in the bigger poultry institutions. You won't see them at the shows. You won't see them at the fair, a chicken that's been debeaked. But, and literally debeaking is just taking the tip off of the beak because like the pigs, the chickens have a high cannibalism rate, and they have a tendency to just go at each other. So if you want to cut down on your mortality of your chickens, in the huge poultry institutions, sometimes debeaking is absolutely necessary. So just wanted to point some of that stuff out, that if you have questions, be sure to ask them and try to ask them in not a confrontational way, as a poor 4-H kid kind of learned. But we're there to educate, we're there to teach, and we're glad to be able to relieve anybody's concerns about the treatment of the animals, because we are doing our best and we want them to be happy, we want them to be comfortable. So for those reasons, I really felt like I had to talk about it a little bit today. But at any rate, hopefully we're going to have some more speakers coming up. I know we want to talk to somebody from the Fayette County Master Gardeners. We're going to talk to them hopefully here at the end of the month. And so I hope you guys come back and tune in to us for that. But I appreciate all of our listeners out there, and I appreciate everybody sending me information, stuff that's coming up and happening in our region. Again, if you hear anything about some of the farm tours and things going around, please let me know, because they always sort of let me know about those at the last minute. So, as always, I'm talking too much and we're running out of time, but here at Farmsteader's Field Notes, we like to have a good time and have some fun, but there's nothing funny about intent listening and comprehending. My buddy Dave, he was in the supermarket the other day, and he was looking for pork and beans, and he couldn't find them. He looked everywhere, so he stopped one of the people that was stocking the shelves. He said, where are the pork and beans? And the guy goes, I'll see. And he ran away, and Dave waited and waited and waited, and the guy never came back. They walked over the next aisle. He saw another guy stocking a shelf. He said, excuse me, where are the pork and beans? He said, I'll see. And the other guy ran away, and so Dave got kind of confused and annoyed, and he said, finally he started walking around and walking around and walking around. Sure enough, he found the pork and beans in aisle C. Thanks for joining us this week, folks. Have a great time. Don't forget, we're all just future compost, so enjoy the week. I'll see you next week. Stay tuned for CBS News at this hour.
You're listening to WMBS Uniontown.